So you've got a new resin for your 3D printer. But what exposure times do you use? Hey guys, this is a common enough problem. Getting the exposure times wrong can lead to poor quality prints, or even worse, print failures. If there's no helpful information or a RERF file online, you may feel lost. And even if there are numbers out there, there's no guarantee someone else's settings will work perfectly for you. So it's generally best to figure this out yourself. And personally, I've been using the XP2 validation print by Photonsters for ages. However, Phrozen have a very useful resource to help dial in exposure times, and you can use this on any make or model of printer or resin. So here, I'll talk you through using it. It begins with their help center, and I'll provide a link to that in the description. There, you can download the Phrozen XP Finder print and open this in a slicer of your choice. Starting with a normal layer, you need to enter a number that will get you started, and personally, when dialing in, I prefer to overexpose than underexpose. If you use too low a number and underexpose, you might end up with no print at all and a soggy mess stuck to your FEP. If you overexpose, you will get a print, but the detail might be blurred. Personally, I know which problem I prefer to work with, so it's overexposed all the way for me. With monochrome printers, if there's no other information available, and if it's a standard resin, I tend to begin with a normal layer time of around 3 seconds. If it's a castable or specialty resin, I'd probably double this as my first guess. If you've got a pre-monochrome printer, such as the original VogMan Mars, exposure times are typically between 7 and 15 seconds, but a guess of 12 seconds has always worked well for me. We'll be sticking with a layer height of 0.05mm here, which should get you great detailed prints. You'll also need to think about the number of burning layers and the bottom exposure times. These settings are to ensure that the first few layers stick well to the build plate, and again, if there's no other information available, I'd go with 6 or 8 bottom layers, which is fairly typical, and a burning exposure time that's 10 times longer than the normal exposure time. Now with this printer, which is the Phrozen Sonic Mini 8K, and this Z-Mud resin, I'm ignoring my own advice and sticking with 20 seconds. And if you've watched my recent videos, you'll understand why. But 10 times the normal layer height is generally a nice starting point for bottom layers. And with that done, we can slice and print the Phrozen XP Finder. Once you've cleaned and cured it properly, you can inspect it carefully, looking at the Phrozen help page. It's easy enough. Just compare your print against the images shown. This will help you figure out whether your print is under or overexposed, so you can increase or decrease your exposure times. Now I've been fairly lucky here. 3 seconds looks pretty good, though as expected, I think it's a little overexposed. I don't think I need to increase the exposure any further, but maybe I'm wrong. And right now, we're just trying to narrow down our search range, so I'm going to overexpose even more and see if I'm right. As the Mini 8K is a monochrome screen, I'll make a leap of another half a second. But with a pre-monochrome, I'd increase the normal layer height by a full second. Here's the resulting print, and a good tip is to label these on the back so you don't get confused. These changes are on the subtle side, but it's fairly clear that this print is more overexposed than the previous print. The text is slightly blurred and the lines are a little bit wider than ideal. Unfortunately, at the moment, Phrozen doesn't tell us about these corner areas, but it seems obvious that 3.5 seconds exposure It's starting to bleed detail together here. Another common sign of overexposure is unexpected holes forming in the print, like these. From this, I'm confident my exposure time should be less than 3 seconds. So now I'm going to take another half a second jump in the opposite direction, reducing from 3 seconds to 2.5 seconds. My guess is that my ideal exposure time lies between 2.5 and 3 seconds, but let's see what happens. Here's the printed Phrozen XP Finder with an exposure of 2.5 seconds, and at a glance it's pretty much the same. But look more closely. Some of the text is missing. These boards and lines have certainly thinned out. And the layering of these pillars is much fainter, or at least that's how it looks to me. On camera this may seem a little different, so you'll just have to trust me. But certainly for me, this print is slightly underexposed, but not by much in fairness. Now these prints don't take long to do, about 20 minutes in my case, and dialing in the exposure time helps guarantee better quality prints. As I'm thinking my guess was right about my ideal exposure time being between 2.5 and 3 seconds, I'm going to perform print tests at 2.6, 2.7, 2.8 and 2.9 second exposures. Again, if this was a pre-monochrome, you would perform similar print tests at half-second intervals. Anything less than that and you really wouldn't see any changes at all. And here they are, from 2.5 to 3.0. From your perspective, they probably all look pretty similar, but with a very close inspection, you can see the subtleties. From this, I've decided that 2.6 was my best test print. But before we get cracking printing our favourite model, take a look at what Phrozen says here. After finding the perfect settings on the Phrozen XP print, we recommend increasing the normal layer exposure time by at least 10% on the actual print and by 20% on larger models over 12 centimeters. Well, we've followed their guidance so far, so let's carry on. 10% of 2.6 is 0.26, which means my ideal printing exposure time is either 2.8 or 2.9, depending on whether you want to round up your decimal places or not. After looking at the 2.8 and 2.9 prints, I prefer the look of the 2.8. So that will be my normal exposure time for this particular resin. That means I can feed this figure into my slicer with confidence. If we're sticking to the 10 times rule for the bottom layer, we would adjust our time to 28 seconds. As said, I'm happy to stick with 20 seconds I decided on earlier. And that's something else you can adjust if you like. If you feel the prints are sticking too well to the plate, try lowering this figure by a few seconds and test again. If it's not sticking well enough, try increasing by a few seconds. You'll quickly find a level where it prints well but slices away cleanly from the plate. I'll test my settings on this excellent miniature by Mammoth Factory. I love this little guy, and I'll include a link in the description to these excellent miniature designers. So what do you think? I'm happy with this print. There's plenty of detail and no failures, so that's a good printing result. You can see how, by increasing or decreasing your exposure time in small controlled tests, the Phrozen XP Finder and similar printing aids can help you dial in your perfect exposure time, helping you to achieve the best possible prints. Whether you own a Phrozen, an VogMan, an Anycubic, a Creality or whatever, this test will still work for you, and it has been made freely available to the printing community by Phrozen. So well done them. And before finishing, I have a couple more quick printing tips that you might find helpful. Prints usually fail because of poor supports. Getting this right isn't difficult, and I have a useful video for you which you may wish to watch. If you're dialed in nicely with perfect supports, but your prints fail to form properly, try reducing the lift speed. Lift is the speed at which the plate withdraws from the FEB. If it lifts too fast, brittle resins can often snap free and prints will fail. Slowing the process down does mean that the print will take longer, but a successful print is better than a failure. So reduce it by 5 seconds or so and do another test print. One last consideration is consistent temperature. Most resins are happiest around 25 degrees Celsius. So if your room temperature is less than this, consider fitting an enclosure heater. And that's it for this video, guys. If you have any questions, as always, feel free to drop me a line. So take care, guys, and thanks for watching.